Xi Jinping, a biography, written by Zhong Wen. Chapter 12 The Public Conscience Calling. Shortly after Xi Jinping took office, he ordered that no delusional comments about the central government, with immediate effect, no discussion about him, and all people were banned from speaking out, but many public intellectuals still dared to speak out and attacked Xi Jinping directly. Ren Jiqiang, who is known as a canon, has been publicly attacking Xi Jinping since he took power in 2013, and in 2012 he spoke at Beijing University, calling on students to rise up and tear down the wall of the Chinese communist dictatorship and re-establish a democratic system. In February 2016, when she inspected the three major media, Ren sharply criticized Xinhua News Agency for its party media surnamed Party in Absolute Loyalty to the CCP in February 2016. Ren was born in 1951 and his father, Ren Quansheng, was the Vice Minister of Commerce of China. Ren belongs to the second generation of the Red, a real estate entrepreneur, a Master of Law from Renmin University, and is a contemporary of Xi Jinping and Wang Qishan. In 2020 March, Ren has published an article with heavy artillery bombarding Xi Jinping, attacking Xi Jinping's speech on February 23, 2020 at a national video conference of 170,000 people, and attacking Xi Jinping, calling him a clown who wants to become emperor even after being stripped naked. He has exposed Xi Jinping's ambition to be an emperor, and whoever does not let him be the emperor will be made to perish. At the time the Chinese people were trapped by the pandemic, Ren pointed out, people's lives were hurt by the virus together with the serious illness of the system. On March 12, 2020, Ren was arrested by the Chinese Communist Party's Commission for Discipline Inspection, CCDI, and his son and secretary were also controlled by the CCDI. Ren has been out of contact since then. On September 22, 2020, Ren was sentenced to 18 years of imprisonment by a Beijing court on economic charges. It was rumored on the mainland internet that Ren was on a hunger strike in prison despite having heart attacks and health worries. In March 2021, it was even rumored that he had died in prison. Officials are not sending any messages. Su Zhongran, a law professor at Tsinghua University, has raised the banner of criticizing Xi Jinping's authoritarian perversions and has continuously published long and well-reasoned articles which are very popular, and thus he is the most representative leader of public intellectuals on the mainland. After publishing a long article on humming reform and opening up in January 2018, Professor Su has published a long article exposing Xi Jinping's dark rule, our current fears and expectations, in 2018, listing the people's 8 kinds of grievances. 1. Fear of losing property rights, the party to eliminate private ownership in the end. 2. Another political hangover, far-left reappearance, intellectual panic. 3. Class struggle again. 4. Shut down again. The government's policy is to make sure that the government will not be in trouble with the US, but it is in hot water with North Korea. 5. The foreign aid overload to tighten everyone's belt. 3 trillion foreign reserves, 40 years of hard work and accumulation to pay water. 7. The war system and stability maintenance system in parallel. 8. Reform to end the return of totalitarianism for the nation's greatest panic. Then Su Zhongran has listed the 8 expectations of the people. 1. Stop the big spending on foreign countries, do justice, domestic problems are like a mountain, the countryside is withered, people's welfare gone. 2. Stop the spread of wastefulness. 3. Abolish the privileges. 4. Abolish the special offer. 5. Implement the Sunshine Bill on officials' property. 6. The cult of the individual hurriedly breaks and the party media stops creating gods. 7. Restore the tenure system, end lifelong leadership, no checks and balances, the people tremble. 8. Vindicate the June 4th incident. Professor Su has finally attacked Xi's core power manipulation, governance, perverse practices and collusion between government and business. The village of Liangjiahe in Shaanxi province where Xi Jinping went to his hometown has only 40 to 50 families, but it has a permanent liaison office and agricultural products exhibition hall in Shanghai, which is a double act of collusion between government and business. Beijing Supreme Procuratorate has also opened a procuratorial service center here, and it is jointly listed with the Liangjiahe Village Party branch. The actual Liangjiahe University Question project was launched by the Shaanxi Provincial Social Science Federation, which has been frantically pushing against the trend of the God-making movement. In January 2019, Su Zhangrun published a long article entitled, Xi Jinping's Red Empire Never Rises, Idiot Talks About the End of the Road, criticizing Xi Jinping's amendment of the constitution as fixed in a single place, narrowing the framework of the party-state to a small circle of the inner court, semi-paralyzing the existing party-state bureaucracy, one party, one leader, one doctrine. The Axis group fetishizes and worships power, does whatever it wants. They monopolize wealth and truth. The Red Empire seems to have taken shape, causing terror to the nation, unrest to the neighbors, causing fear and trepidation. But Xi Jinping has underestimated the historical tide that is vast and unstoppable. The people seeking change and transformation have been raging undercurrents just waiting to surge forward. Once it outbreaks, Xi and its core inner circle will collapse. A constitutional democracy, People's Republic, the return of government to the people, will surely come. In February 2020, Xi Jinping first concealed the pandemic and then brutally closed the city, killing people and spreading the pandemic around the world, causing anger both at home and abroad. The people are no longer afraid. They condemn his core circle for its lavish entertainment, dancing and singing, empty slogans, blocked information and loss of conscience. Hong Kong is the most affluent and civilized place in China. But the Xi regime's high-handed suppression has caused the people to be separated from their morality. Xi Jinping shouts, community of human destiny, but refuses to integrate the system into the civilization. Who will follow him? Dozens of countries have imposed travel bans on China. The world is averse to China and has rejected it, completely isolated it. Emperor Xi is alone on the map of civilization, a loner. He has lost the hearts of the people, and the powers are clinging to their weaknesses in an isolated world. The dawn is seen in the sky, it will be bright. In fact, the countdown has begun, the time for constitutionalism will come soon. The scribe holds a pen as a sword, and hundreds of millions of people are roaring against injustice. Each one with heart and life are ready to embrace the coming sun of freedom. On May 21, 2020, Su Zhangrun has published China's Lonely Boat on the Ocean of World Civilization, which deplores that China has been a civilized and righteous country for 2,000 years, but unfortunately it has been invaded by the Russian Communist Party and kidnapped by the Communist Devil as a scourge for the past 70 years, just like being conquered by the barbarians, holding its nose and leaving the track of world civilization. The Chinese Communist Party does not abandon the evil communist framework, and it is only deceiving the people by talking about civilization. Su deplores the fact that China has become a civilized lonely boat, but also deplores the fact that the world's great civilized country, the United States, has actually fallen into the hands of Trump in recent years. The sick man is ruling the country, losing the number one power's mind and bearing no big picture in his mind. He has no shoulder to bear, is angry, lies, and lacks populism. The man who has no mind, scourges the country, is not false, he is helpless. Su Zhangrun has also complained that the United States has misjudged the Chinese Communist Party for the past 30 years, not knowing where the enemy is. It has exhausted the dividends on the Cold War against the Soviet Union and ignored the growing wings of another red totalitarian power, which has left a legacy of canker, just as it did in World War II. When the United States danced with the wolves and destroyed the German fascists, at same time America raised a more evil red Soviet demon. In order to fight green terrorism, the United States has allied itself with the red evil, which has resulted in the fattening up of an even bigger evil, the greatest lesson for the free world at the beginning of the 21st century. To this day, the East is engaged in a daily low-level war of words against the West. It only exposes the low nature of their under-civilization. Su pursued the old U.S. for misjudging the Chinese Communist Party. He also still does not forget to whip the liberal regime. The liberal regime has been living in a corner, in peace for a long time, and has lost the will to fight, slackened and neglected, resulting in Fascism, sitting on the big, and finally has incurred a great disaster. Su also has not forgotten to criticize Kissinger and has alleged that Kissinger is a clown. He can no longer fool people. His game came to an end. Paulson types induce a lot of crooks, certainly will not see the good and will not dare to trip again in muddy water. Su has sternly condemned the 70-year-old tyranny of the Chinese Communist Party that has resulted in a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood and is still the largest monopoly landlord depriving peasants of their land. When he called on the CCP to return land rights to the peasants, he also suggested that Zongnanhai should be returned to a heritage park and no longer be used as a private residence for high-ranking officials and the party. Tiananmen Square should be restored to its civic function and be opened as a farmers' market on weekends, and the Memorial Hall, which was exclusively occupied by Mao, should be changed to a shrine of the sages of China. On July 7, 2020, Su Zhongruan published, "Trampling on Civilization Will Drive Evil to the World," severely condemning the Communist Party of China for the mass demolition in the capital city, driving away the low-end population and not sparing the artists. He has pointed out that the capital city includes the studio of the famous painter Shang Yang, the creative studio of the famous poet Yu Xinxiao, the recording studio of the famous musician Qin Wanmin, the Yuan Ti Art District, 008 Art District, Songzhuang Art District, Shupo Art District, Heiqiao Art District, Winery Art District, Rome Lake International Art District and a large area of residences in Chui Village and Lu Village are all demolished and destroyed, which is a catastrophe. It is a painful statement that several generations of artists have invested their blood and sweat in the project which has greatly enhanced the human ecology and been welcomed by the people. But now the sharp axes are coming down and the shovels are ending them. The HOS does not exist and the culture is gone. The CCP is the world's largest landlord by depriving people of their natural land rights, natural legal rights and by making them vagrants. After the demolition of the land, the CCP was able to get the land listed at an exorbitant price for sale. In July 2020, Tsinghua University was ordered to dismiss Su Zhongruan from his public position, leaving him with no means of livelihood. He was moved to write an open letter to Tsinghua alumni on July 19, saying, "Today the temple is extravagant, most of our compatriots are barely fed and struggling, the official media is rising. Half of China is soaking in water, the storm is shaking. The government's malignant quality will not change and all the countries in the world will become orphans. As long as I don't die, I will call out. I will live on, bear the suffering, the dark night fire, to welcome the dawn. I am in need of the same warm people as my compatriots. Please transfer the charity donations to the urgent need of the place, love and righteousness sown in the suffering of the compatriots." Zhongruan can still labor to earn food and sell words to buy rice. In less than 400 words, Su's text message provides a glimpse of the bones of traditional Chinese scholars and the conscience of the nation which touches the hearts of hardworking people. "He is a very brave man," said Jerome Cohen, a close friend of Su Zhongruan and a New York University law professor who is over 90 years old. On July 15, 2020, he faces three choices: to continue to publish occasionally in China and then be punished more severely by the authorities, like Su Zhiyong and other outspoken reformers. The second is to remain as silent as possible, dive into research and thinking and wait for the right time. The third is to leave China if approved by the authorities. Professor Kong has expressed the hope that he can sponsor Su Zhongruan to come to the United States. In early July 2020, Su Zhongruan was arrested and the police brought in more than 10 police cars and 20 police officers to search his computers and took away his paperworks. They arrested and questioned him and then released him a week later on July 12, under surveillance. On September 9, Deng Xiaonan couple, the bookstore owner and publisher who supported Su Zhongruan, were arrested by the police, which aroused Su Zhongruan's anger. He wrote, "For many years, she has been a public spirit, selfless and unbiased person who speaks out courageously and fearlessly for those who have suffered for the public good, and she has run for justice holding her salary and holding her horse at all costs, and she has been cynical about evil, combining beauty, talent and justice. She is a martyr who went on the rugged road to freedom without rebellion, a great citizen who pursued democracy with great vigor." Su Zhongruan said sternly at the end of the letter to tyranny, "Do not do evil, put down the butcher's knife, release Xiaonan, return the freedom of Xiaonan couple and give justice to the world. If Xiaonan is guilty, we are equally guilty, do not bully women, jail and kill, please start from Runjiang. In 2021, Geng Xiaonan was brutally sentenced by the authorities to 3 years imprisonment for illegal business operation, and her husband was released on bail to live under surveillance. Su Zhangrun kept speaking out even though he lost his freedom under surveillance, and on September 29, 2020 he wrote another long article, Why Do You Shiver So Hard? Ruthlessly he dissected and condemned the CCP revolution from Mao to Xi for creating terror, building a kingdom of lies, bringing everyone into deception, infinite dictatorship, open shamelessness, causing mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He has said the leader of CCP is the biggest master-slave. The revolution is a marathon of competing who is more ferocious and who is more cunning, the end of which is a 10,000-foot cliff, piling up the bones of countless slaves. In Our Current Fears and Expectations, Su Zhangrun asks Xi Jinping's government to maintain a minimum of 4 bottom lines: 1. Maintain basic law and order, 2. Respect private property rights, 3. Tolerate freedom of life, and 4. Maintain the term system, abandon the lifetime system. The 8 expectations require President Xi to do one of them first. First of all is to announce the removal of the ban on no presumptuous discussion of the central government. They can clamp down on the people of the country as they wish, and a certain corrupt official is paying people hush money to prevent scandals from leaking. Su Zhangrun's appeal to hold the bottom line was strongly echoed by Yi Zhongtian, a professor of history who also condemned His Majesty for singing high tones and not holding the bottom line but doing the Chinese dream and world dream. He is keen on holding international forums everywhere, appearing as a world leader, and likes to talk big and release global governance in a high profile, disregarding the fact that a large number of people in China are poor and living in hardship and suffering. Medical, education and livelihood problems are piling up like a mountain, but the money from the accumulated blood and sweat of 1.4 billion people are spilling to the outside world. Various deadly disasters in the country are only engaged in telegram governance, yet never actually solved. Yi Zhongtian has pointed out, what is lacking in China nowadays? The most lack of the CCP is the abandonment of the bottom line, which is the lifeline of the CCP. Without the bottom line, the government will dare to do anything. They torture people to extract confessions. Anything, like slaughtering people, will happen. Yi Zhongtian has said, my hope for the Chinese Communist Party is 8 words, do not sing a high tune, keep the bottom line. Beijing University sociology professor Zheng Yefu has also bravely spoken out on December 22, 2019. Professor Zheng had published The Cause of the Difficulty of Political Reform in 2018, pointing out that the Chinese Communist Party did not even dare to implement the property disclosure system, so how could it reform? He asked the 7 Standing Committee of the CPC, starting with Xi Jinping, to take the lead in public disclosure of property, and Zheng's stern initiative. The CPC retires with dignity and fades out of history. Zhao Shilin, a professor at Beijing Central University for Nationalities, has written a letter to Xi Jinping in March 2021, sharply criticizing the human factors that have led to the ferocious spread of the pandemic and pointing out that Xi should take the primary responsibility. Professor Zhao has said that Mr. Xi can only get a 0 on this test. Zhao has analyzed the 5 major causes of the out-of-control pandemic: 1. The system's extreme stability maintenance, 2. The system's failure to report good news, 3. The system's exclusive use of power, 4. The loss of civil society functions, and 5. The lack of transparent and unobstructed information. It is pointed out that it is a systemic crisis and President Xi is responsible for the first. Zhao Shilin has said, to uphold conscience and assume social responsibility is the duty of intellectuals. Speaking out is the job of the intellectuals, just like workers to do work and the farmers to do planting. However, after the disclosure of his petition, his WeChat and Weibo accounts have been blocked. Kai Xia, a professor at the Central Party School in Beijing who had always criticized Xi Jinping, could no longer gain a foothold at home and fled to the United States in August 2020, saying bluntly, the CCP is already a political zombie, Xi Jinping is a gangster, I am off fishing and back in the ranks of the people, I am back in line, my retirement package is gone. My life is broken from its source, but I do not regret criticizing Xi Jinping. Zhang Ming, a professor at Renmin University of China in Beijing, has criticized Xi Jinping's course, saying, "The whole world doesn't want communism, we do. The whole world wants democratic constitutionalism, we don't. The whole world's people are standing up, we're on our knees." He also has said, "The whole world endorses universal values, we don't. The world's officials do not enjoy the special offer, our officials enjoy it with peace of mind. The whole world supports anti-dictatorship, we don't. People all over the world enjoy free education and medical care, we can't." Yu Jianrong, director of the Social Issues Research Center of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, as early as 2014 when it was Xi Jinping's second year in power, put forward the 10 don'ts to Xi's core. 1. Don't make the Chinese dream. 2. Don't let corruption run rampant. 3. Don't let the constitution be a piece of straw. 4. Don't let the youth become losers. 5. Don't let the peasants become stragglers. 6. Don't treat falsehood as self-confidence. 7. Don't treat infringement of civil rights as a tool of governance. 8. Don't treat the NPC as a decoration. 9. Don't treat political reformers as enemies. 10. Don't forget your historical responsibility. On February 2, 2020, some alumni of Tsinghua University, after the death of Li Wenliang, published a letter to compatriots, denouncing the government for killing the truth and put forward 5 objections. 1. The survival of hundreds of millions of people should be put in the first place. 2. Oppose group blocking. 3. Oppose to maintain a stable mode of thinking in the people as the enemy. 4. Oppose to turn the disaster into a glorification event, to pursue the system responsibility. Oppose to change the disaster into a glorious event, to chase the system responsibility. 5. Oppose to regression, insist on abolishing the leadership for life, restart the reform. In January 2020, Su Zhiyong, a human rights lawyer, published a 10,000-word letter of dissuasion against Xi Jinping while in exile, which was well-reasoned, pertinent and without any falsehoods, and it pierced like a sharp sword into Xi's heart. Su Zhiyong was sentenced to 4 years in prison in 2013 for publishing an open letter calling on Xi Jinping to take the road to democracy and constitutionalism, and in early 2020 he was threatened with exile from Beijing and was sent into exile in the south. Su Zhiyong began by saying to Xi Jinping, "Once again, the people expect, you give up." Then he counted Xi Jinping's 4 self-confidence, 8 clear, 14 adhere to, a basket of terms. He said he didn't know what to say. Isn't it the Cultural Revolution? A dictatorship? The more self-confidence in the mouth, the less self-confidence in the heart. He relies on a small group of alcoholic brothers and sisters who carry a dozen team leaders. They would not do anything but waste resources and labors. She uses Belt and Road in order to control the economy of weak countries, but that's just a waste of trillions of wealth earned by hard-working people in China. When major crises come, they are helpless. They are aggressive to Hong Kong and constantly encroaching on freedom. During the Wuhan pandemic, they intimidated doctors, blocking the truth to the national disaster. They are mediocre, and the cult of the individual dictatorship will reverse the flow of history. They are back to the historic Liangjiahe. Private enterprises also were requested to set up a CCP party branch. Doesn't it mean to share assets? With the public-private enterprises mission will be over. This is a full-scale withdrawal. Xi is the only one left in the news broadcasting. Xi's portraits were posted on the streets and alleys. Yuan Shikai retrograde history, you are far worse than Yuan. Yuan still cannot compare with Xi. What do Xi dream about? Desperately trying to maintain stability, but ghosts on all sides. Security special agents are continuously on increasing its activities. They don't do the right thing, only busy maintaining stability. Due to Xinjiang's detention being arbitrary, a large number of Chinese have fled from Xinjiang. Should the Xinjiang model be promoted in the mainland? There are more than 200 million cameras and their number is increasing rapidly. The cost of stability maintenance has long exceeded the military expenditure. The more maintenance, the more unstable governance. China is hollowing out, everyone is in debt, the whole country has to pay. You are in the emperor's new clothes parading and I am the child who is speaking the truth. Su Zhiyong's final advice to Xi: the world trend is vast against the current. You go home and rest, it's too late to regret. Su Zhiyong, who was arrested on February 15, 2020 at a friend's home in Panyu, Guangzhou and was taken back to Beijing, he has not been heard since then. His girlfriend, Li Xiaochu, a labor researcher and feminist, is also imprisoned in Beijing and her situation is also unknown. The Xi government has been paying students to inform them and set up a system of so-called student informers to monitor teachers. Tan Song, a professor at Chongqing Normal University, was forcibly removed and dismissed in July 2017 for engaging in truth-seeking about Red history, and in 2019 Zhao Xiyun, vice president of Zhejiang Media College, Li Mahai, head of the political science department at Shandong Institute of Technology and professor at Yantai Party School, Yang Xiaoji, professor at Guizhou Normal University, Shi Jiepeng, associate professor at Beijing Normal University, Su Chuanqing, associate professor at Beijing Architecture University, Yu Xingdong, professor at Xiamen University, and Wuhan Zhai Qinghong, associate professor of Zhongnan University of Economics and Law, have been expelled, suspended, dismissed and expelled from the party for making statements that are not allowed by the Xi regime.